Hey everybody, it's Jamie from the Marine Doctor's YouTube channel, and today we're going to be switching out steering on a Sylvan 16-foot aluminum boat. I'm going to be showing you the tools, I'm going to show you the procedure that I have to do, and people, this is going to be a big job. So before I get started, what I'd like to do is organize my tools and find out which tools I'm going to need for the job. So we're going to need an inch and 1/8 wrench to remove the nut that holds the cable onto the engine. We're going to need a 3/4 and a 3/4 to remove the engine, because in this instance I have to pull the engine off the boat. I'm going to need a Phillips screwdriver and a Phillips impact as well, because I'm going to have to disassemble some of the boat. I'm going to need a 7/16 and another version of a 7/16 to remove the rack and pinion from the steering wheel itself. I'm also going to be using my impact gun in order to remove the engine. I'm also going to need side cutters because they're going to have zip tied everything in place, a 9/16 to disconnect the cable from the steering shaft or steering bar, and I'm also going to need the lifting hook to pull the engine off. And not in the picture because it's too big, I've got my hoist that I'm going to be using. Let's get ready. Oh, no, sorry, one last thing. My firm grip utility gloves that I bought at Home Depot, which I often always wear. All right, let's get things underway. So we're going to start here on this 9/16 nut. So this disconnects the cable from the steering shaft from the engine. Now the engine is loose. Step 2, disconnect the nut from the side of the engine. Sometimes if this doesn't come loose, it'll spin this whole shaft, which means putting a wrench on the opposite side on the nut that looks just like this one and holding it tight on the other side so that this will loosen off. And we're loose. So you can tell that he's had his back. He's attempted to repair what he believed was going on by throwing a lot of grease at this shaft as it goes through. But that's not where the problem is. The problem's inside, and it's gotten water in through here, and it's seized up the cable itself. So there's a question that I need to answer is, why do I need to pull the engine off the boat? If I don't pull the engine off the boat, I don't have enough clearance to pull the cable back through in order to get the cable out of the boat itself. So if I take the engine off, that gives me a lot more room so that I can get that cable out. If this was way back here, that would give me ample room to get the cable out, but I physically will not be able to pull that cable out of there. So they went and they installed an inspection port here, which should help me reinstall the cable and uninstall the cable. I've never seen one of these on a boat before in this position. Normally what we end up doing is, if we can't get the cable out properly, is disassemble the whole back end. But this should hopefully help. So I can access the cable through here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it, but I'll happily move it there for you. And we can see the cable is right there. It would appear that I forgot to mention one of the tools that I'm going to use. I'm going to use bolt cutters, and I'm going to cut the cable here just to speed things up. And I'll have to finish the cut with these. But this is going to take some effort, so you guys aren't going to see me doing this. So the reason I took and cut that cable was it's going to be a lot easier for me to pull that through from there all the way around to the front if it doesn't have that bar and that large nut on it. Because the bar and the large nut are just going to get caught on stuff. Keep that in mind if you're doing this yourself. The next place we're going to go is up underneath the steering wheel. The next place we head to is underneath the dash to disconnect the cable from the steering mechanism. All right, so here we are under the dash, and we're going to have to remove this bottom panel in order to get at that bar that's there. So this is rack and pinion steering. It's held in place by 4 7/16 bolts from the top. Once we get those bolts out, I should be able to pull the cable back through from this side. All right, so we've got some Phillips head screws that we need to take out. I'm not sure how many there is, but we definitely have to take them out. I need to get this dash piece out of here. It would appear that in order to get that front piece out, I have to take this glove box out, which I have already, and then access some screws in through the back. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully that allows me to take that panel out. So it looks like this is what I'm going to have to settle for. I should be able to get at those bolts now to get this cable out. Now, you might be looking at this saying, well, couldn't you just gone through that access hole that was in the bottom? And I'm going to say, because I'm sitting here and I'm doing this, hell no. But I should be able to get this out now. All right, onto those 7/16 bolts that hold it in. So you can see my little 1/4 inch ratchet that I'm using, and that's what I'm going to take all 4 of those bolts out with. You're not going to see me taking those out because you guys don't need to hear all the swearing that I'm going to be doing. We'll get this out right away, and we'll move on to the next part. All right, bolts are out. Out comes the cable. I should just be able to pull it out. All right. Back to the reasons why I cut that cable. Number 1, I can now feed it through and pull it out from the front because it's not going to catch on anything, which I previously mentioned. Number 2 is, why am I doing things in this order? Why wouldn't I pull the engine off, slide the cable out, then cut it, so on and so forth? I know that it's a rack and pinion that's in there. I just don't know which cable it is. And until I pull it out, I can't see the number that's going to be stamped on it. And they stamp the number close to the back, which is all hidden away. So I'm going to have that number and be able to order or pull the cable off the shelf. Then the engine comes off so that I'm not repeating work 2 times. Okay. So my zip tie idea was fantastic, except for that one zip tie right there. That's holding me up. Now, if we didn't have this opening here, I would have to disassemble the whole side of the boat in order to get that one zip tie that's holding it in place. That could add an hour of labor onto this project. And there we have it. The cable is out. So we're just going to go ahead and check out what number is on here. With the cable out, we can now check the number that's on it and get one on order if we don't already have one in stock. All right, stop for lunch, check the cable. We have one in stock. It's a 15-foot SSC 134-15. So that's what I'll be putting back in. It took a little bit of work to figure it out because the number was all scratched off, but you measure the black part, and then you add 30 inches on, and then round up, and that lets you know which cable you need. You may have noticed for the majority of the video, I haven't been wearing the gloves. Cable's going back in now. I'm going to be putting my hands into places where there could be bare metal or sharp things. Gloves going on now. So what needs to happen is I have to thread the bar into the cable through that hole, make it turn, go all the way down here, and then come out where that black grommet is there where the light is shining, and then go into the engine. I'm going to need a few minutes. Well, it would appear that our friend Physics has taken over and said, square peg, round hole. I cannot feed it in through that way. I need to find some other way, and I think I know what it is. All right, if you recall earlier, I told you that I took the glove box out of here, out of the backside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the cable in through this side, down the gunnel, and then out through the back, hopefully. And then I'll worry about putting it into place over here. But I need to get that cable down there first. Well, the cable looks like it's got a mind of its own. I don't need it up there. Actually, honestly, I probably could run it up there. But I think it needs to run down through that hole. Or maybe it was up top. I think it has to be up top. Look what I found. I had to reach in there and give it a couple of yanks, but I got it to come through. Now we just got to go from here to there. Okay. There it is. Now I just got to get it around the corner and through the hole. Okay. I know what you guys are thinking. Jamie should have snaked it when he took the original cable out. But Jamie didn't do that because that would have been easy. What if someone forgets to do that? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to snake it from where it is. I'm going to reach in, tie a wire onto the hole that's into the cable. I'm going to climb back in the boat, hopefully pull on that wire while I feed the cable through and make it come around that corner. Maybe. So my hand is still in one piece. I got a little bit of, indentation there. Again, I couldn't wear gloves while my hand was in there, but there's our wire. So we're snaked. Now we know what the hole is for, right? So what I'm going to attempt to do is pull on here, pull the cable around the corner while I feed it in from that end. I'm going to need some luck. Because I'm a quick study and a quick learner, I came to the conclusion that that's a dumb idea. It's not going to work. So that means had I ran a snake to begin with, I would have ran into the same problem anyway. I cannot pull that through. I need to unfortunately disassemble the back side of the boat, hopefully along the gunnel there, to get at that cable. Got to get my screwdriver and my drill out and have at her. The person that designed this boat did a pretty bad job. They ran wood all the way from the bottom up to the top on the side, so I can't take that panel off. I have to take the casting platform off the back in order to get that cable to come around the corner. Oh well. Because I'm too stubborn, I refused to take all of this stuff apart. I did. So I kept on going with my green piece of wire that I hooked up. Let's take a look where we're at now. See the silver bar? We're almost around the corner. Little determination, little bit of elbow grease, and I didn't even swear when I was doing it. But I'm getting excited because I'm almost there. You guys aren't going to believe this. There it is. That took a lot to get around that corner. I'm 99.9% sure that it didn't bend. Now I just got to take the engine off and go ahead and feed it through that hole, put the engine back on, and then, I'll show you what the then-the is. That, my friends, is the then-the. I have to feed that the rest of the way back inside under here and then bolt it in place amongst that wires and stereo and dash and yeah. It's time for the lifting hook. So this bad boy just threads down. just like that. With the lifting hook installed, I can move my hoist up into place, attach it, and then start working on the retaining bolts that are holding the engine on the transom. So the top bolts are easy, the bottom bolts not so easy. They've put the nuts on the inside, so I have to go through that cap similar to the way I did here with a wrench to hold a nut, and then I'll spin that bolt off from the outside. All right, weekend is gone and I'm back at it. I'm going to finish up this steering today. I have to take the engine off and run that cable through, and that'll give me some more room up at the front to pull that cable through the rest of the way. That's up next. With the top bolts out, I can now turn my attention to the bottom bolts. I'm probably going to need 2 people to do this. I need someone's hands inside the boat on the wrench while I use the impact to spin the bolt off from the outside. That's the bolt there. There's 2 of them. Good. With the engine off, I can now pull the shaft out and then place the other shaft inside. All right, the shaft is in place. Now I'm going to scrape the silicone off and replace it. With the silicone scraped off, I'm going to take and clean up the area a little bit better so that the new silicone has something to stick to. All right, it's time for the silicone. I'm going to put a circle around the hole that's already there that the bolt goes through. I'll be putting 4 of them in place. With the silicone in place, I can now return the engine to where it's supposed to be. If you forget where it's supposed to be, you can usually check and see the paint's been slightly scraped where the bolts have gone in. So we can see that this is where the original bolt was going through because the paint has been removed and it's created a circle around the outside of the smaller hole. So before we put these nuts on, we're going to take and grease them a little bit. That way they won't seize on the bolts as we install them. With the engine on the back of the boat, we're going to go ahead and finish hooking up the steering at the back. We'll center the engine and then turn our attention to the front of the boat where the helm is to get that cable in place. So back up here at the front, I now have to get the front of the cable here in over top of this, underneath all these wires, and then bolt it into place. All right, cable's back in place. I've got 1 bolt started, and I just got 3 more bolts to go, and yeah, we're set. So bolts are all back in place, and now we just got to push this bottom piece up and then screw it in place, and then this part is done. All right, the engine's on and the steering is hooked up at the front. Now we just have to steer it and make sure that it turns. Well, everybody, it looks like that's a wrap on that Sylvan that I needed to do the steering on. I want to say it was super easy, but no, it was an extreme adventure all the way through. There were hurdles to overcome. Every time I turned around to do something else, there was another thing. I had to do a lot of different out of the box thinking in order to get this thing to get back together. And yeah, I finally got it done, and hope you guys enjoyed the show. In the meantime, if you would mind liking, subscribing, and send some comments to me down below, that would be great. And we'll see you guys next time.